Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my review of the Invincible. This will likely be my last review of the year. We'll squeeze this one in at the end. So I played a chunk of it when it came out. It fell by the wayside, I can't remember for reasons, but I've just finished it up today, and I thought I'd squeeze this review out at the last second. Is it worth your time? Is it worth your money? That's very tough. It's absolutely worth your time. I really enjoyed it. I got through it in about 6.5 hours. It is definitely, you can probably see, and I'm going to be very sparing with my B-roll because this is a game you do not want to spoil. It is a very, very strong narrative walking simulator-like game, very, very light on the gameplay. However, for lack of a better term, it's one of the good ones. But at the same time, if you're not entirely convinced by these sort of games, and I'm with you there, brother, right? It becomes a very hard pill to swallow when 90% of these dog shit narrative games that use really flimsy gameplay as a vehicle for their crappy writing, it gets a bit tough to sift through all that stuff. So this is one of the actual good ones. However, it's not going to change your mind on very, very light gameplay mechanics. I would argue like it has the sort of gameplay that does engage with you and the environment. Lots of little sort of mini games, like it's still light on. Observation comes to mind, one of my favorite games ever as well. And this will be up there too. I really, really enjoyed this. Let's make that very, very clear. But Observation's another great one as well. Another sci-fi, narrative heavy, but gameplay light. Arguably there's more gameplay in that, but the same sort of thing, that the mini games and the gameplay loops are sort of complementary to what your character's doing at the time. Like in the opening moments of this game, I believe, I'm not going to give anything away. Your character wakes up and they are confused as to where they are on this planet. And so you pull out your map, with tab, and you want to try and triangulate where you are. So you plot a fix off of distant areas and sort of draw a circle to intercept and find your location. I don't believe you do that ever again in the whole game, but my point is that gives you an idea. It's sort of emergent adventure mechanics. So there's no real core gameplay loop other than going through a narrative that's very, very solid, and I'm just going to say nothing about it basically, or very little, but the mechanics are complementary. Which is cool, right? Because the other alternative would be some sort of flimsy loop that's weak and just wears you out. So look, the gameplay's serviceable, and it's arguably as good as you could expect or hope for from this sort of game. But as sort of covered, I did clock it in 6.5 hours. Replay value is limited because there's a limited choices. There are some things in there, and I might go back and get achievements out of curiosity as well. But the nature of this story and what it's trying to do, and I have to tiptoe so carefully, is that it is a one-shot. There's not really a lot in the way of branching paths. And as far as a value proposition, there's not really a lot, what little there is in those branching paths probably isn't enough. Dollar value things, 6.5 hours for the price it's asking? No way. It's way overpriced compared to, my traditional metric, and this is making me rethink my metric. So this is something that I would easily suggest to someone who's not a hardcore gamer like me, even though I'm a pretty casual hardcore gamer, right? I play everything, but I'm bad at everything. But if you don't have the splash around money, I would absolutely not begrudge you of not picking this up. It's a very, very tough pill to swallow. Even though this is as brilliant as you could possibly argue, at the same time, it stands as a really good example of why these sort of games probably don't exist at a high level of quality, because they probably cost a lot of money to make, and yet they don't really offer a huge amount of value comparatively in the marketplace. My strongest suggestion would be wishlist it and pick it up at a price that you would think is reasonable for a really awesome experience. So it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. But the actual costing, the exchange, the dollar amount, I think it would be a very, very hard thing to ask someone to pay full price for this, unless they are an incredibly enthusiastic gamer and they just really, really want to grab onto it. However, once you jump over the price hurdle, and we'll just put that on the personal level, you figure out how much you're willing to pay in a way, right? This is really, really cool. And I would argue, yeah, probably one of the must-experience games of the year. Anyway, I'm quite hung up on that because, yeah, the value proposition is very, very difficult to argue, no matter how fun and how great the hours that I did get out of it, and the mystery, because it is a mystery at its core. It is scientifically driven. There are philosophical components. Do you have to have read the book originally? I would argue no, because I hadn't. However, the ending will leave a lot to be desired, and I believe there are two paths you could go with. I'm furious and I hate the way this ended, or you could go in the other direction, which is investigate the novel, figure out what it was trying to talk about, you know, the sort of overtures, the concepts. I would actually argue if you've never read it and you don't know anything about the Invincible, playing the game first and then researching it second would be pretty cool, because that's what I did, and I got some value from it. You'll notice I've spoken barely about the story, about anything. I've given you an idea of the thin gameplay because, you know, that's an important barrier to cover. But suffice it to say, yes, it is a scientifically mystery-driven story, and it's really compelling, and that should be enough, right? And if that's not enough, you should probably just not play this game. I refuse to be in the arena of reviewers where I go through and I give you a book report play by play and I wreck this game. I would even argue, don't watch trailers for it. I saw trailers when this got announced like 12 months ago, and I knew from the sort of Art Deco 60s futurism direction, I was like, I'm going to play this, and it's published by 11-bit. So like, I knew I was going to do it, but specifics from the trailer, I can't even remember because I saw it a year ago. And I went back and watched the trailer. Holy heck, don't watch it if you're thinking about playing this game. Don't do that, because you'll have these fresh moments in your mind that will wreck it. Do what I did. Know that you, like, make the handshake agreement with yourself that you're going to play the game, and then just go blackout media. Stop this video. Don't watch trailers. Don't look up the book. Play the game, or just ignore everything about it until it goes on a reasonable sale, and then play it then. That's the best way to do it. 95% of it is great. And I will say this much, in an attempt to, it's not homage, but an attempt to really tie it together with the novel, because the novel, in a way, is a vehicle for a philosophical concept that the author came up with in the 60s. At the time, it was pretty original. I know I'm dancing around it and talking around it. I wouldn't say the ending is necessarily bad, but sometimes a good thriller leaves things hanging and leaves questions, and I think this game tries too hard to tie it all together and have your scientific character essentially info dump their hypothesis on what's happened. And to be honest, I'm not even that super upset about the hypothesis info dump, as jarring as it is. Like, the rest of the game up until that point is quite nuanced, and it's a really well-paced thriller that keeps you going, and honestly, you could just delete the whole info dump. In an attempt to address all these problems at the 11th hour, the game opens itself up to a lot of holes, to the point where it feels like when you see movies where the studio interferes and makes some reshoot endings, the ending of this game feels like studio interference in a way. The audience is going to be too dumb, or the audience won't be satisfied with an ending that still leaves things ambiguous, so let's do it this way. A part of me also felt like not even mentioning this in the review, because the other 95% of the game was brilliant. It was a really fun experience, and I really, really enjoyed every moment of it, as short and now bittersweet as it might be. So yeah, do I recommend it? I absolutely do, but the price point is going to be a really important point to surmount. If you've got fuck you, throw around money, walking around money, and you don't really care, then it's an easy decision. Buy it, play it, and count it as one of the coolest storytelling experiences that you're probably going to have in gaming, at least this year. However, if you're a little bit frugal with your money, I would absolutely say pick it up on like a discount that's more reasonable to your wallet. Anyway, they're my thoughts. It's a really cool game. Team, might just leave it there for the time being. I'll catch you guys on the next one.